So Daniel 11 is definitely a type and a shadow of what is to come. On October 8th, 2025, the peace deal between Israel and Gaza was celebrated. This starts the 7-year tribulations that will give rise to the Antichrist. On that same day, we had the Draconids meteor shower at its peak. The Draconids meteor shower comes from the constellation Draco, most commonly symbolizes Satan or the Antichrist. Draco, the constellation, is most famously recognized as being the dragon Ladon, who was the guardian of the golden apples of immortality in the Garden of Hesperides in Greek mythology. Sounds an awful lot like the Bible story of the serpent Satan in the Garden of Eden. This dragon was slain by Hercules as his 11th labor, just as it will be Christ's 11th hour labor at the end of the 7-year tribulations. The story goes like this. King Cepheus had 3 brothers and was called the King of the South. Queen Cassiopeia was very well aware of her beauty, thus committing hubris. This brought calamities upon their kingdom, including a giant sea monster, the Ethiopian Cetus. King Cepheus was told that he had to sacrifice his daughter to the sea serpent if he wanted peace. However, Perseus the hero comes and saves Andromeda as she is chained up to be sacrificed and kills the sea serpent. Now King Cepheus had originally set his daughter to be wed to his brother Phineus, but now gives her to Perseus. In Daniel chapter 11, we have a very similar story. Take a look. Look at verse 2. He says, "And there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than they all." Cepheus had 3 brothers, and he was called the King of the South, which was South Egypt, which is the same as the King of the South in this story. Here in verse 4, well, each brother ruled 4 great areas: Cepheus to the south of Egypt, Phoenix to the west, Phoenicia, Danus of the Danans / Greeks in the north, and Egyptus in the east in Arabia. In verse 5, it says, "The king of the south shall be strong, and one of his princes, and he shall be strong above him." Well, eventually King Cepheus' grandchild, Perses, becomes Persia and gains all of the king's dominion. In verse 5, it says, "The king's daughter of the south shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement." Well, remember that King Cepheus had originally given his daughter to his brother to be wed. Then it says, "But she shall not retain the power of the arm." She didn't end up marrying Phineas, did she? And then it says, "Neither shall he stand nor his arm. Phineas was turned to stone. But she will be given up, and they that brought her, and he that begat her." Well, that was her dad. If you look at verse 7, it says, "But out of a branch of her roots shall one stand up in his estate." Well, Perseus and Andromeda have a boy named Perses, who they give to King Cepheus as an heir because he didn't have an heir. So why am I showing this to you? Where's the Antichrist? Up until verse 19, the king of the north was a terror to the chosen people, and he dies. Down the line, there is a vile person that rises up in verse 21. He comes by a false peace and uses corruption and conspiracies to gain power and trust. He takes all the riches for himself. There's a naval battle in verse 30 that must not have been very successful because he takes his anger out on Israel and the peace that was supposed to be between them. This is the real story of Antiochus Epiphanes the Seleucid that Daniel foresaw about 200 years before. Antiochus desecrates the temple, proclaims himself as God Zeus in the flesh, sacrifices a pig in the temple, and makes Israel worship him. Many Jews are slaughtered. He eventually contracts a disease and dies. Going back several generations in the Antiochus genealogy, we discover that Perseus fathers Hercules, who fathers the first Antiochus in the long line.